Danny Fletcher wiped down the medical scanner for the third time that morning. The infirmary aboard the GSV Horizon's path was quiet, which meant he had time to organize supplies and update patient records. He liked the quiet moments. They gave him time to think and prepare for whatever emergency might come next. The ship was home to over 200 crew members from 15 different species. Danny had learned to treat everything from respiratory issues to digestive problems. Each species had different needs, different biology, different ways of healing. It made his job challenging, but he loved it. Doctor, the ship's chief physician, clicked across the floor on 6 legs. The doctor's compound eyes reflected the overhead lights as she reviewed. "The morning health checks are complete," she said in her precise, buzzing voice. "All crew members are functioning within normal parameters." Danny smiled. "That's good to hear. Maybe we'll have a calm day for once." He should have known better than to say that out loud. The alarm shrieked through the ship barely 10 minutes later. Red lights flashed along the walls. The computer's calm voice announced, "Containment breach in Xenobiology Lab 3. All personnel evacuate the area immediately. Hazard level red." Danny grabbed his emergency kit and ran. Doctor was right behind him, her many legs carrying her faster than any human could sprint. They reached the lab section within seconds. Crew members were stumbling out of nearby rooms, some coughing, others holding their arms protectively. Through the lab's viewing window, Danny could see the problem. A storage container had cracked open. Inside had been silicon-based organisms collected from a dead moon 2 weeks ago. The creatures looked like floating crystals, each one sharp and gleaming. They were supposed to be dormant. They were not. The organisms swarmed through the lab like angry bees. They sliced through everything they touched. Equipment sparked and died. The walls showed deep cuts where the crystals had scraped against them. "We need to seal that section now," Doctor said. She was already treating an engineer whose arm was bleeding from several cuts. Danny saw movement near the lab door. 3 junior researchers were trapped inside, pressed against the far wall. The silicon organisms were between them and the exit. The researchers were young, barely out of academy training. Their eyes were wide with fear. "The emergency seal will activate in 30 seconds, the computer announced. Danny did not think. He just moved. He ran to the lab door and yanked it open. The researchers saw him and ran toward the exit. The silicon organisms turned as one, sensing the movement and the open door. They flew at the running researchers like a cloud of knives. Danny stepped into the doorway and spread his arms wide. The researchers ducked under his arms and ran past him. The silicon organisms hit Danny's back and shoulders. Pain exploded across his skin as the sharp edges sliced through his uniform and into his flesh. He felt warm blood running down his back. "Get clear," he shouted. The researchers made it into the hallway. Danny stumbled backward and fell through the doorway. The lab door slammed shut behind him. The emergency seal activated with a hiss of compressed air. Through the window, Danny could see the silicon organisms floating in the sealed lab, unable to escape. Doctor was beside him immediately. Her many legs moved in a blur as she scanned his injuries. "You are bleeding significantly. Do not move." Danny tried to sit up, but the pain made him gasp. His back felt like it was on fire. "The researchers, are they okay?" "They are unharmed because you shielded them with your body," Doctor said. Her voice was as emotionless as always, but her hands were gentle as she applied pressure to the worst cuts. "A typically reckless human action, effective but dangerous." Other crew members arrived with a medical stretcher. They lifted Danny carefully and carried him to the infirmary. Every movement sent fresh waves of pain through his shoulders and back. He could feel the blood soaking through the temporary bandages Doctor had applied. In the infirmary, Doctor worked quickly. She cleaned each cut and applied biogel that would seal the wounds and speed healing. Danny gritted his teeth through the process. The biogel stung worse than the original injuries. "You have 17 lacerations of varying depth," Doctor reported. "None are life-threatening, but several are quite deep. You will need complete rest for 72 hours minimum." "I can work light duty," Danny said. "The infirmary needs me." "No," Doctor's compound eyes fixed on him. "Your human tendency to ignore injury is well documented in medical literature. You will rest, or I will have you confined to quarters under security watch. This is not a request." Danny wanted to argue, but he knew Doctor meant every word. The doctor had no patience for patients who refused proper treatment. Fine, 72 hours. Good, I will monitor your recovery personally. Doctor turned to prepare additional medication. Danny closed his eyes against the pain. He heard soft footsteps nearby and opened his eyes to see a small figure peeking around a supply cabinet. It was Pip, the 6-year-old daughter of Commander, the ship's captain. Pip was small even for her age, with large golden eyes and soft gray fur. Her tail was puffed up with anxiety, and her ears were pressed flat against her head. She must have been in the infirmary when the alarm went off. "Hey, Pip," Danny said softly. "It's okay, the danger is over." Pip crept closer. Her eyes were fixed on the bandages covering Danny's back and shoulders. "You're hurt," she whispered. "Just a little bit. I'll be fine in a few days." "You saved those people. I saw it on the monitor." Pip's voice was small and scared. "You were bleeding." Danny reached out slowly and gently scratched behind one of Pip's soft ears. The gesture was something he had learned from her father, found it comforting, especially the young ones. Sometimes helping people means getting a little hurt, but that's okay. That's what doctors do, we help people. Pip leaned into his touch, her tail slowly puffing. But who helps the doctors? It was a good question. Danny did not have a good answer. Other doctors, I guess, like Doctor is helping me now. Pip looked at the physician with doubtful eyes but said nothing. She stayed close to Danny until Doctor finished the treatment. "You may return to your quarters now," Doctor told Danny. "Take these pain medications every 6 hours. Do not miss a dose. Do not engage in any physical activity. Do not attempt to work. Do not do anything except rest and allow your body to heal. Am I clear?" "Crystal clear," Danny said. He stood slowly, wincing at the pull of the injuries across his back. The biogel helped, but it would be days before he felt normal again. Pip watched him leave with wide, worried eyes. Danny gave her a small wave and a smile. "Don't worry about me, little one. I'll be fine." But Pip did not look convinced. Danny made his way back to his quarters, moving slowly through the corridors. Other crew members stopped to thank him for saving the researchers. He nodded and accepted their gratitude, but all he wanted was to lie down and sleep. His quarters were small but comfortable. He had decorated them with pictures of Earth and a few plants that reminded him of home. He carefully lowered himself onto his bed, lying on his stomach since his back was too painful to touch. The pain medication doctor had given him started to work. The sharp burning faded to a dull ache. Danny's eyes grew heavy. He let himself drift toward sleep, unaware that a certain small cub had made a very important decision about his care. Pip had watched the human doctor save those researchers without hesitation. She had seen him bleeding and hurt. She had watched Doctor treat him with efficient, clinical care, and Pip had decided that it was not enough. Doctor was good at medicine, but the doctor did not understand something important about humans. Pip had been studying humans ever since Danny had started working on the ship. She had read everything she could find in the ship's database about human biology and behavior. And she had learned something that Doctor clearly did not know. Humans needed more than just medicine to heal properly. They needed touch. They needed comfort. They needed what Pip's father called grooming and what the human database called affection. Doctor could seal wounds, but Pip could provide something just as important. She could provide the care that would help Danny truly heal. The small cub waited until Doctor was busy with other patients. Then she quietly took one of the portable from the infirmary storage. The kit was almost as big as she was, but Pip was determined. She dragged it through the corridors, staying in the shadows and avoiding the main pathways where adults might see her and ask questions. She knew where Danny's quarters were. She had visited once with her father when the commander needed medical advice. Pip stood outside Danny's door for a long moment, gathering her courage. Then she used the emergency medical override code she had memorized from watching Doctor. The door slid open quietly. Inside, Danny was asleep on his bed, lying on his stomach with bandages covering his back and shoulders. He looked peaceful but also pale and tired. Pip dragged the inside and let the door close behind her. She set the kit down carefully and climbed. Danny woke slowly, pulled from deep sleep by the feeling that something was different in his quarters. His back ached with a dull, persistent pain that reminded him immediately of the silicon organism attack. He started to roll over, then stopped as the movement pulled at his injuries. He opened his eyes and froze. Pip sat in the chair beside his bed, her large golden eyes watching him intently. The portable from the infirmary sat on the floor beside her, its contents partially unpacked and arranged in neat rows on his desk. "Pip," Danny's voice was rough from sleep. "What are you doing here? Does your father know where you are?" "You're awake," Pip said with clear satisfaction. She hopped down from the chair and moved closer to the bed. "How is your pain level? Scale of 1 to 10. Doctor taught me to ask that." Danny blinked, trying to make sense of the situation. Maybe a 5. "Pip, seriously, what are you doing in my quarters? And is that the infirmary?" "Yes, I brought it because you need proper care." Pip's tone was matter-of-fact, as if this explained everything. "Doctor is very good at medicine, but she doesn't understand humans like I do." "What do you mean?" Danny carefully pushed himself up to a sitting position, keeping his injured back away from the wall. Pip climbed back onto the chair so she could look Danny in the eye. "Humans need scritches to heal properly. It's in the database. Physical contact with trusted individuals reduces stress hormones and promotes faster recovery. Doctor gave you medicine, but she didn't give you scritches, so I came to fix that." Despite his confusion and pain, Danny felt a smile tugging at his lips. "Scritches. Gentle touching, petting, what my father does when I'm sad or hurt." Pip's ears tilted forward earnestly. "The human database says it's very important for your species. You're social mammals, you need contact." "Pip, that's very sweet, but you can't just take medical equipment and hide in my quarters. Your father must be worried sick about you." Pip's tail drooped slightly. "He was in a meeting with the other commanders. I left him a note saying I was safe." "A note saying you're safe isn't the same as telling him where you are," Danny said gently. He reached for his communicator on the bedside table, but it was gone. "Pip, where's my communicator?" The small cub looked away, her ears flattening with guilt. "I hid it. You need rest. No work calls. Doctor said so." Danny took a slow breath, trying to think through the pain medication fog in his brain. "Okay, Pip, listen to me. I know you're trying to help and I appreciate that, but you need to go back to your father right now. He'll be looking for you." "Not until you're properly cared for." Pip's small jaw set with determination. "You saved Ensign Brooks. You saved Technician. You saved Researcher Hayes. You got hurt protecting them. Now someone needs to protect you." The words hit Danny harder than he expected. He had never thought about it that way. "I was just doing my job." "Your job is medical technician, not shield," Pip said firmly. She pulled a small scanner from and pointed it at Danny's back. "Your bandages need checking. The biogel can separate if you move too much. Did you move too much?" "I was sleeping," Danny said. He was starting to realize that arguing with a determined 6-year-old was not going to be easy. "Pip, please, just give me back my communicator so I can tell your father where you are." "After I check your bandages." Pip set the scanner down and moved around behind Danny. Her small paws were surprisingly gentle as she examined the edges of the bandages. "Some separation on the left shoulder. I need to apply more biogel." "You know how to do that?" Danny asked, surprised. "I watched Doctor and I read the instruction manual in the—" Pip was already opening a tube of biogel. "Hold still, this might sting." She was right. The biogel burned as it made contact with the wound edges. Danny hissed through his teeth but held still. Pip's application was careful and precise, nothing like the rushed emergency treatment from earlier. "You're pretty good at this," Danny admitted. "I practice on my stuffed animals," Pip said. She finished with the biogel and gently pressed the bandage back into place. "There, much better. Now you need water. Humans dehydrate easily. And food. When did you last eat?" Danny realized he could not remember. "This morning, I think, before the alarm." Pip made a disapproving sound that reminded Danny strongly of her father. She went to Danny's small food storage unit and pulled out a ration pack. "Not good enough. You need nutrition for healing." She prepared the food with the same careful attention she had given to the bandages. Danny watched her move around his quarters, this tiny cub who had decided to take care of him. It would have been funny if it was not also strangely touching. "Why are you really doing this, Pip?" Danny asked quietly. Pip brought him the food and water, then climbed back onto the chair. Her tail wrapped around her body, a sign that she was thinking about something difficult. "My mother died 2 years ago. She was sick. The doctors tried to help her, but she died anyway." Danny felt his heart clench. He had known that Commander was a single father, but he had not known the details. "I'm sorry, Pip. That must have been very hard." "She was alone when she died," Pip continued, her voice very small. Father was on duty, I was at school. The doctors were there, but they're not family, they're not pack. She looked up at Danny with eyes that seemed too old for her young face. When I saw you bleeding today, I thought about my mother, I thought about how she was alone, and I decided that you wouldn't be alone, not if I could help it. Danny set down the food and water. He slowly reached out and gently scratched behind Pip's ear, the way he had in the infirmary. You're a very kind person, Pip. Your mother would be proud of you. Pip leaned into his touch, a soft, purring sound starting in her chest. Will you let me help you, please, just until you're better? Your father will be looking for you, Danny said again, but his voice was gentler now. I know, but can't you call him and tell him I'm here and I'm safe? Then I can stay and take care of you properly. Danny knew he should refuse. This was the captain's daughter. There were protocols and rules about this sort of thing. But Pip's eyes were so hopeful, and Danny was tired and hurt, and honestly a little touched that someone cared enough to steal medical supplies for him. If I call your father and explain the situation, and if he says it's okay, then you can stay for a little while. But you have to promise to do everything he says. Deal. Pip's ears perked up and her tail began to wag. Deal, where's the communicator? You hid it, remember? Pip's ears flattened with embarrassment. She climbed down from the chair and retrieved the communicator from inside one of Danny's boots. Sorry, I didn't think that through very well. Danny took the communicator and opened a channel to Commander. He expected to wait, but the Commander answered immediately. His voice was tight with stress. Fletcher, have you seen Pip? She's been missing for over an hour and... She's with me, sir, Danny interrupted quickly. She's safe, she's in my quarters. There was a brief silence. Why is my daughter in your quarters, Fletcher? Danny looked at Pip, who was watching him with nervous hope. She decided I needed better medical care than doctor was providing, sir. She brought and has been checking my bandages. Another silence, this one longer. She stole a. Borrowed, sir, and to be fair, she's been very professional about it. I'm coming there now, don't let her leave. The communicator clicked off, Pip's ears drooped. He's angry. He was worried, Danny corrected. There's a difference. When you love someone, worrying about them and being angry that they scared you can feel very similar. Pip climbed back onto the chair and curled into a small ball. I just wanted to help. I know, and you did help. My bandages are better, I'm eating, and I'm drinking water like I should be. You did a good job. Danny reached out and gently touched the top of her head. But you also scared your father, and that wasn't okay. Sometimes when we try to help, we have to make sure we're not hurting someone else in the process. Like how you helped those researchers but hurt yourself. Danny paused. That's actually a really good point. Yes, like that. So we both need to be more careful about how we help people, Pip said thoughtfully. I guess we do. They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Pip's purring started again as Danny continued to gently scratch behind her ears. Despite the awkwardness of the situation, Danny had to admit that having company felt good. Doctor had been right about the rest, but wrong about the isolation. Humans did heal better with companionship. The door chime rang. Pip jumped slightly, then straightened her shoulders and lifted her chin. I'm ready to face him. That's very brave, Danny said. You were brave when you saved those people. I can be brave when I talk to my father. Danny called for the door to open. Commander filled the doorway, his large frame tense with worry and relief and anger all mixed together. Doctor stood behind him, her compound eyes taking in the scene with professional assessment. Pip said, his voice carefully controlled. Come here, please. Pip hopped down from the chair and walked to her father. She did not hang her head or tuck her tail. She stood straight and met his eyes. I'm sorry I scared you, father. I left a note, but I should have told you where I was going. Looked at his daughter, then at Danny, then at the neatly organized medical supplies on the desk. Why did you take the... Because Danny needed proper care, and doctor doesn't know about human scritching needs. Pip's voice was respectful but firm. Dr. Santeni twitched. Human what needs? Scritches, physical comfort, social grooming. Pip looked at the doctor. It's in the human medical database. Physical contact with trusted individuals reduces stress and promotes healing. You gave Danny medicine, but you didn't give him comfort. Doctor was silent for a long moment. Then she moved past and scanned Danny with a medical. Her antennae twitched again as she read the results. Your vital signs are improved, she said, sounding surprised. Stress hormones are down, healing markers are elevated, pain responses are reduced. She looked at Pip. What exactly did you do? I checked his bandages, applied more biogel where it was separating, made sure he ate and drank water, and provided comfort scritches. Pip recited it like a medical report. Danny watched as Doctor processed this information. The doctor's head tilted in a way that suggested deep thought. I see. It appears I may have overlooked an important aspect of human recovery care. Commander sighed heavily. Pip, what you did was dangerous and irresponsible. You stole medical equipment. You hid from me. You worried the entire crew. I know, Father, I'm sorry. Pip's ears drooped. But Danny was alone and hurt, and I couldn't bear it, not after Mother. His expression softened immediately. He knelt down and pulled his daughter into a gentle hug. His large Pa commander had been in a tactical meeting when his daughter disappeared. The first sign of trouble came when the school monitor called to report that Pip had not returned from her scheduled break. At first, assumed she was hiding somewhere on the ship, playing as children sometimes did. But 20 minutes passed, then 30, and Pip did not appear. The commander's concern grew into genuine worry. Pip was usually responsible about checking in. She knew the ship could be dangerous, especially after incidents like the morning's containment breach. Began to search, checking her usual hiding spots and asking crew members if they had seen her. No one had. It was as if Pip had vanished. Activated the ship-wide intercom, keeping his voice calm despite the growing fear in his chest. This is Commander. Has anyone seen Pip in the last hour? Please report any to the bridge immediately. Responses came in quickly, but none were helpful. Pip had been seen leaving the school area. Someone thought they saw her near the infirmary level. After that, nothing. Doctor was the one who made the connection. The physician contacted the bridge 20 minutes into the search. Commander, I have discovered that one of our portable is missing from storage. Security footage shows Pip entering the infirmary storage area approximately 1 hour ago. Why would Pip take a? Asked, but even as he spoke, he knew the answer. The morning's incident. Danny Fletcher's injuries. Pip's worried face as she watched the human being treated. I do not know, Doctor admitted. But the kit is designed for emergency treatment. It contains biogel, scanners, bandages, and pain medication. Nothing dangerous to a child, but concerning nonetheless. Felt his worry shift into a different direction. Show me the security footage. The video showed Pip moving with clear purpose. She went directly to the storage area, used a step stool to reach the shelf, and carefully lowered one kit to the ground. She dragged it out of the infirmary, struggling with the weight but determined. The footage showed her heading toward the crew quarters section. She's going to Fletcher's quarters, realized. She thinks he needs additional care. Dr. Santeni twitched. I provided adequate medical treatment for his injuries. His recovery should be progressing normally. Pip has been studying humans, said slowly, remembering conversations with his daughter. She's fascinated by them. She reads the database entries about Earth and human behavior. He looked at Doctor. What does the database say about human recovery needs? Doctor pulled up the information on her. Her compound eyes scanned the text. Physical contact with trusted individuals promotes healing. Social isolation during recovery can slow the healing process. Humans are highly social mammals who require, she paused, regular physical affection for optimal health. And you sent Fletcher to his quarters alone to recover, said. That is standard medical protocol for injuries that do not require constant monitoring. Doctor sounded defensive now. He needed rest, not company. By standards, perhaps, but Pip would have read the human requirements and decided Fletcher needed more than what you provided. Was already moving toward the door. I'm going to crew quarters. Send Security Officer Lee to meet me at Fletcher's quarters. I will accompany you, Doctor said. If Pip has been attempting medical treatment, I need to assess whether she has caused any harm. They found Lee waiting outside Fletcher's door. The human security officer looked concerned. Sir, I checked with the ship's computer. The door was accessed 45 minutes ago using an emergency medical override code. The code was valid, but it was unusual timing. Pip must have memorized it from watching Doctor work, said. His daughter was clever, sometimes too clever for her own good. He pressed the door chime. Danny Fletcher's voice came through the intercom after a brief delay. Yes. Fletcher, have you seen Pip? She's been missing for over an hour and... She's with me, sir. She's safe. She's in my quarters. felt relief wash over him, followed immediately by confusion. "Why is my daughter in your quarters, Fletcher?" "She decided I needed better medical care than doctor was providing, sir. She brought and has been checking my bandages." Looked at doctor. The doctor's antennae were flat against her head, which he had learned meant she was processing unexpected information. "She stole." "Borrowed, sir, and to be fair, she's been very professional about it." Despite his worry and frustration, felt a small surge of pride. His daughter had been frightened and concerned, and instead of hiding or crying, she had taken action to help someone she cared about. Misguided action, perhaps, but brave nonetheless. "I'm coming there now, don't let her leave." Ended the communication and headed for Fletcher's quarters with Doctor and Lee following. His mind was racing. Pip had never done anything like this before. She had always been careful to follow rules and respect boundaries. What had changed? But he knew what had changed. The containment breach, seeing Danny hurt. The blood and the pain and the fear that someone she cared about might be taken from her the way her mother had been taken. His anger softened into understanding. His daughter was acting out of grief and fear, not rebellion. When they reached Fletcher's quarters, took a moment to compose himself before ringing the chime. The door opened to reveal a scene that was not at all what he expected. Fletcher sat on his bed, looking tired and pained but otherwise alert. Medical supplies were arranged neatly on the desk, organized by type and function. And Pip sat in a chair beside the bed, her posture straight and her expression serious. The room did not look like the scene of a child's impulsive mistake. It looked like a functioning medical station, albeit a small one. "Pip," said, keeping his voice carefully controlled, "come here, please." His daughter climbed down from the chair and walked to him. She did not cower or look away. She met his eyes directly, which surprised him. "I'm sorry I scared you, Father. I left a note, but I should have told you where I was going." Wanted to scold her. He wanted to explain all the ways this had been wrong, but the words died in his throat as he looked at his daughter's serious face. "Why did you take the—" "Because Danny needed proper care, and doctor doesn't know about human scritching needs." "Human what needs?" Doctor asked from behind. "Scritches, physical comfort, social grooming." Pip turned to look at the doctor. "It's in the human medical database. Physical contact with trusted individuals reduces stress and promotes healing. You gave Danny medicine, but you didn't give him comfort." Watched as Doctor moved past him and scanned Fletcher with her medical equipment. The doctor's antennae twitched as she read the results. "Your vital signs are improved, stress hormones are down, healing markers are elevated, pain responses are reduced." Doctor looked at Pip with what might have been respect. "What exactly did you do?" Pip recited her actions like a trained medic giving a report, listened with growing amazement. His 6-year-old daughter had not just stolen medical equipment. She had used it correctly. She had identified a gap in Fletcher's treatment and filled it with competent care. But that did not make it acceptable. "Pip, what you did was dangerous and irresponsible. You stole medical equipment. You hid from me. You worried the entire crew." Pip's ears drooped. "I know, Father, I'm sorry, but Danny was alone and hurt, and I couldn't bear it, not after Mother." The words hit hard. He knelt down and pulled Pip into his arms, holding her close. She was so small, his daughter, so young to be carrying such heavy feelings. "I understand, little one, but there are proper ways to help." "Can I stay and help Danny?" Pip asked against his chest. "Please, I'll do everything properly. I'll report to you and doctor. I'll follow all the rules, but please let me help him." Looked at Fletcher over Pip's head. The human looked uncertain but also touched. "Fletcher, do you want a 6-year-old medical assistant?" Fletcher looked at Pip's hopeful face. "If it's allowed, sir, I would be honored." Sighed he should say no. There were protocols and procedures for medical care. A child should not be involved. But as he held his daughter, he felt her small body trembling slightly. She needed this. She needed to feel like she could help, like she could prevent loss through action instead of helplessly watching it happen. "Doctor, what is your professional opinion?" asked. The doctor was quiet for a long moment. Her compound eyes moved from Pip to Fletcher and back again. "The child has identified a legitimate gap in our treatment protocols. Human social needs during recovery are not adequately addressed by standard medical procedures. Her intervention has produced measurable positive results." "So you're saying it helped," said. I am saying that Pip's understanding of human psychology may exceed my own in certain areas. She has applied that knowledge effectively. Doctor paused. However, she cannot be allowed to take medical equipment without authorization. That sets a dangerous precedent. Agreed. Set Pip down and looked at her seriously. Here are the rules. You will return the to doctor immediately. You will apologize to the entire medical staff for taking equipment without permission. You will complete an extra week of school assignments about proper emergency procedures and communication protocols. Pip's ears drooped further, but she nodded. Yes, father. However, continued, if doctor agrees, you may be assigned as Fletcher's official recovery assistant. You will report to doctor daily on his condition. You will follow all medical protocols exactly as doctor instructs you. You will not take any action without approval, and you will make sure Fletcher actually rests instead of trying to return to work early. Pip's ears perked up. Really, you mean it? If doctor approves the arrangement, yes. All eyes turned to the doctor. Dr. Santeni waved in what had learned was her version of thoughtful consideration. I will allow it under specific conditions. Pip will attend a medical training session with me each morning before visiting Fletcher. She will learn proper procedures for wound care, vital sign monitoring, and emergency response. She will use only equipment I specifically authorize, and if she deviates from my instructions even once, the arrangement ends immediately. I can do that, Pip's tail was wagging now. I'll be the best assistant ever, I'll learn everything, I'll follow every rule. You will also continue your regular schooling, added, and you will spend time with your friends and do normal child activities. You are not actually a medical technician, Pip. You are 6 years old, don't forget that. I won't forget, Pip promised. Fletcher spoke up from the bed. I have one condition too, if that's okay. Everyone looked at him. The human smiled slightly. Pip, you have to promise to tell me stories and talk to me like a normal person, not just a patient. If I'm going to have company during recovery, I want it to be actual company. Deal. Pip's eyes lit up. Deal. I know so many stories, and I can tell you about school and my friends and the book I'm reading and... After Fletcher has eaten and rested more, Doctor interrupted firmly. He is still recovering from serious injuries. Pip, you will accompany me back to the infirmary now. We will return thee and begin your first training session. Pip hopped down and took Doctor's offered appendage. Before leaving, she turned back to Fletcher. I'll come back tomorrow morning with proper authorization, and I'll bring better food than those awful ration packs. My father makes excellent breakfast. Fletcher laughed, then winced at the pull on his injuries. I look forward to it. Watched his daughter leave with Doctor, chattering excitedly about all the medical procedures she wanted to learn. Lee followed them, smiling at Pip's enthusiasm. Remained behind for a moment, looking at Fletcher. Thank you for being patient with her and for understanding. She's a special kid, Fletcher said. You should be proud of her. I am, but I'm also concerned. She's carrying too much grief for someone so young. Aren't we all? Fletcher said quietly. He adjusted his position on the bed, careful of his bandages. For what it's worth, Commander, she did help. Having her here made me realize how much I've been pushing myself without accepting support. Maybe we're helping each other. Nodded slowly. Perhaps you are. But Fletcher, if this becomes too much, if having a child around during your recovery is more burden than help, you will tell me immediately. I will, but honestly, sir, I don't think it will be a burden. I think it might be exactly what both of us need. Left Fletcher's quarters feeling better than he had since Pip disappeared. His daughter had acted impulsively and broken rules, but she had also shown compassion, intelligence, and courage. She had identified a problem and solved it, even if her methods were unconventional. He would make sure she understood the seriousness of taking equipment without permission. He would ensure she learned proper procedures and protocols, but he would also encourage this caring side of her personality, this desire to help and heal. The next morning arrived with a gentle chime at Danny's door. He had slept better than expected, though his back still ached when he moved. The pain medication helped, but he was careful as he called for the door to open. Pip stood in the hallway holding a covered plate. Doctor stood beside her, carrying a medical bag. Both looked official and prepared. Good morning, Danny, Pip said cheerfully. I brought you breakfast. My father made it special, and Doctor is here to supervise my first official assistant shift. Danny smiled despite the early hour. Come in, both of you. They entered, and Pip immediately set the plate on Danny's desk while Doctor began unpacking medical equipment. The doctor worked with her usual efficiency, but Danny noticed she was watching Pip carefully. "Pip will now demonstrate proper patient assessment procedure," Doctor announced. "Pip, begin." Pip straightened her shoulders and picked up a medical scanner. She approached Danny with careful steps. "Good morning, patient Fletcher. How did you sleep? Please rate your pain level on a scale of 1 to 10. "I slept well. Pain is about a 4 right now." "Good, that's down from yesterday's 5. Pip made a note on a that was almost too large for her small paws. "I'm going to scan your vital signs now. Please remain still." She ran the scanner over Danny's chest and back, moving slowly and carefully. Doctor watched every movement. When Pip finished, she handed the scanner to Doctor for review. "Heart rate normal, blood pressure normal, temperature normal, healing markers elevated by 12% from yesterday." Dr. Santeni twitched. "Excellent work, Pip. Now check the bandages." Pip moved behind Danny and gently examined the bandages across his back. Her small paws were light and careful. No separation visible, biogel seal intact, no signs of infection or inflammation. She looked at Doctor. "Should I change the bandages?" "Not yet. They can remain for another day, but you should apply additional dermal regenerator to accelerate healing." Doctor handed Pip a small device. "Remember the proper technique I showed you." Pip took the device and carefully applied it to the edges of each bandage. Danny felt a warm, tingling sensation that was actually pleasant. When Pip finished, she returned the device to Doctor and made another note on the "Assessment complete," Pip announced. "Patient is recovering well, pain levels decreasing, vital signs stable. Recommended treatment, continued rest, proper nutrition, and social interaction for psychological." Doctor reviewed the notes. "Acceptable. You may proceed with the companion care portion of your duties. I will return in 3 hours to check on both of you." After the doctor left, Pip's formal demeanor relaxed. She grinned at Danny and uncovered the breakfast plate. "That wasn't so hard. Doctor taught me everything yesterday. Did you know that human blood has iron in it? That's so weird. Blood has copper instead." Danny laughed and accepted the plate. The food was definitely better than ration packs. "Your father is a good cook." "He learned from my mother. She said cooking was an act of love." Pip climbed into her chair and pulled out a book. "Doctor said I should read to you while you eat. She said it provides mental stimulation without requiring you to talk, which means you can focus on eating properly." "Doctor is very thorough," Danny observed. "She's actually really nice once you get to know her," Pip said. "She told me that don't feel emotions the same way mammals do, but that doesn't mean they don't care. They just show it differently. She cares about patients very much. She just shows it by being really, really good at medicine." Danny thought about that as he ate. He had always found Doctor somewhat cold and clinical, but perhaps that was unfair. She was excellent at her job. She had saved countless lives, including his own. Just because she did not express warmth the way humans did not mean she lacked compassion. Pip began reading from her book, a children's story about an explorer who discovered a new planet. Her voice was clear and enthusiastic, adding dramatic emphasis to exciting parts. Danny found himself genuinely entertained. When he finished eating, Pip set her book aside. "Now comes the important part, comfort care." She climbed onto the bed beside Danny, careful not to jostle his injuries. "May I provide scritches now? Doctor said I have to ask permission before touching patients." "Permission granted," Danny said with a smile. Pip gently placed her small paws on Danny's head and began running her claws lightly through his hair. The sensation was soothing. Danny felt tension he had not realized he was carrying begin to drain away. "This is called grooming in culture," Pip explained softly. "We do it for family and close friends. It shows care and strengthens bonds. Doctor said humans have similar behaviors, but usually only with romantic partners or very young children. But the database says humans used to groom each other more frequently in ancient times." "That's true," Danny said, his eyes closing. "Humans are social creatures. We need touch and connection. Modern human culture sometimes forgets that." "That's sad," Pip said. "Everyone should have someone to scritch them when they're hurt or sad." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, Pip providing gentle scritches while Danny relaxed. Eventually, Pip spoke again. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why did you save those researchers? You knew you'd get hurt. You could have just sealed the door and let them figure it out themselves. Danny opened his eyes and thought about the question. Because I could help them. I had the chance to make sure they didn't get hurt, so I took it. That's what we do for each other, right? We help when we can. But you got really hurt. Wasn't that scary? It was scary, Danny admitted. But it would have been scarier to watch them get hurt and know I could have prevented it. Sometimes being scared is less important than doing what's right. Pip was quiet for a moment. Is that why you became a doctor, to help people even when it's scary? Partly, I also just like helping people feel better. There's something really good about taking someone's pain away or fixing something that's broken. Danny looked at Pip. Is that why you wanted to help me? Because you like making people feel better? Pip's paws stilled in Danny's hair. I wanted to help you because I was scared. When I saw you bleeding, I thought about my mother. I thought about how she was sick and then she was gone. And I thought maybe if someone had taken better care of her, maybe if someone had stayed with her and made sure she wasn't alone, maybe she wouldn't have died. Danny felt his heart break a little. Pip, your mother's death wasn't because she was alone. Sometimes people get sick and there's nothing anyone can do. That's not anyone's fault. I know that up here, Pip tapped her head, but I don't always know it here. She placed a paw over her heart. When you got hurt, my heart said I had to fix it. I had to make sure you didn't die alone like Mother did. Your mother wasn't alone, Danny said gently. I didn't know her, but I know your father, and I know that he loved her very much. Even if he couldn't be physically there at the very end, his love was with her, and so was yours. Pip's eyes filled with tears. Do you really think so? I know so. Love doesn't need physical presence to exist. Your mother knew she was loved. That's the most important thing anyone can have. Pip wiped her eyes with the back of her paw. You're very smart for a human. Danny laughed. Humans have their moments. The door chimed again. Commander stood in the hallway when it opened. He looked at the scene, his daughter curled beside Danny on the bed, both of them relaxed and comfortable. I hope I'm not interrupting, said. Not at all, sir. Please come in. Danny started to sit up, but Pip put a gentle paw on his shoulder. No excessive movement. Doctor said so. Pip hopped down from the bed and went to her father. Hi, Father. I did my first official patient assessment today. Doctor said I did excellent work. I'm proud of you, little one, scratched behind Pip's ears, then looked at Danny. How is she doing, honestly? She's wonderful, Danny said. Professional, gentle, and surprisingly good at knowing exactly what I need. I'm glad to hear it, pulled up a chair and sat down. I actually came to talk to both of you about something Doctor and I discussed this morning. Pip climbed back onto her chair, her ears perked forward with interest. What about? About medical care protocols on the ship. Doctor has realized that our current procedures don't adequately address the needs of social species during recovery. Humans aren't the only ones. Need pack contact when injured. Need specific sound frequencies. Need particular lighting conditions. So we've been treating everyone the same way? Danny asked. Essentially, yes, we've been focusing on physical healing without addressing psychological and social needs. Doctor wants to change that, looked at Pip. And she wants you to help, Pip. She thinks you have an insight into social care that she lacks. Pip's eyes went wide. Really, Doctor said that? She did. She's proposing a new position on the medical team, companion care specialist. It would be a junior position, appropriate for someone your age. You would work with patients who need social support during recovery. You would be trained and supervised, of course. Can I do it, please? Pip was practically bouncing in her seat. If you keep your grades up, complete your regular schooling, and follow all of Doctor's rules exactly, then yes. Smiled at his daughter's excitement. But this is a real responsibility, Pip. People will be counting on you. I won't let them down, I promise. Danny watched Pip's joy and felt something warm settle in his chest. This small cub who had stolen out of fear and love was going to become part of the ship's healing system. She was going to help others the way she had helped him. This is really great, Pip, Danny said. You're going to be amazing at this. I learned from you, Pip said seriously. You showed me that helping people is worth being brave for. I need to get back to the bridge. Pip, you have 2 more hours here, then you need to return to your schooling. Don't forget. I won't forget, Father. After left, Pip settled back into her chair with her book. But before she started reading, she looked at Danny with a thoughtful expression. Danny, When you're all better, will you still want me to visit, or will you be too busy with real medical work? Pip, taking care of people is real medical work. And yes, I'll absolutely want you to visit. In fact, I think you should plan to visit even when I'm not injured. We can have lunch and you can tell me about your studies. Pip's tail wagged happily. Really, you mean it? I mean it, you're my friend now. Friends spend time together. I've never had a human friend before, Pip said softly. Well, now you do, and I've never had a friend who's also a medical assistant, so we're both trying something new. Pip grinned and opened her book. I'm going to read you the chapter where the explorer meets the crystalline Al 3 days after Pip became Danny's official recovery assistant. Doctor cleared him for light duty. The doctor ran her scans one final time, her compound eyes reflecting satisfaction at the results. Your healing rate has exceeded projections by 23%, Doctor announced. The combination of proper medical treatment and consistent social support has produced optimal results. Danny sat on the examination table while Pip hovered nearby, her ready to record everything. She had taken her duties very seriously over the past few days, arriving each morning with her checklist and leaving each evening only after ensuring Danny had everything he needed. Does this mean he can come back to work? Pip asked. She looked excited and worried at the same time. Light duty only, Doctor said firmly. No heavy lifting, no emergency responses, no prolonged standing. He will work half shifts for the next week, then we will reassess. The doctor looked at Pip. You will continue monitoring his condition during work hours. If he shows signs of fatigue or pain, you will report to me immediately. I will, Pip promised. She made a note on her. What qualifies as signs of fatigue? Doctor listed several indicators while Pip wrote frantically. Danny watched with amusement. The young had transformed from an impulsive child into a dedicated medical student in less than a week. She asked questions constantly, took detailed notes, and practiced procedures on her stuffed animals until she could perform them perfectly. You're really taking this seriously, Danny said as they walked to the infirmary together. Of course I am. People are depending on me. Pip clutched her like it was precious treasure. Doctor says that medical work is about responsibility. Every patient deserves our best effort every single time. The infirmary was busy when they arrived. 2 engineers sat in the waiting area, both looking nervous about their scheduled checkups. A human botanist was having her cast removed after breaking her wrist in a fall. And in the corner, a young child was crying while her parent tried to comfort her. Pip noticed the crying child immediately. She looked at Danny. Can I try to help? Let me check with the parent first. Danny approached the adult carefully. Excuse me, is everything all right? The skin shifted to a worried purple color. My daughter needs a vaccination, but she's frightened of the scanner. I've tried to explain it won't hurt, but she won't calm down. Danny looked at Pip, who was already pulling something from her small bag. Would you mind if my assistant tried to help? The looked doubtful but desperate. I suppose it couldn't hurt. Pip approached the crying child slowly. She held up one of her stuffed animals, a small toy her father had given her. Hi, I'm Pip. This is Mr. Whiskers. He was scared of the scanner too, but I showed him it was okay. Wanna see? The child's crying quieted to sniffles. She watched as Pip demonstrated the scanner on her stuffed animal, explaining each step in a gentle voice. See, the light is just checking to make sure Mr. Whiskers is healthy. It doesn't hurt at all. It just tickles a little bit. The child reached out and touched the scanner hesitantly. Pip let her hold it, showing her how it worked. Within minutes, the child was calm enough to accept her vaccination without tears. The parent's skin shifted to a grateful green. Thank you. I've been trying to get her vaccinated for weeks. You're welcome, Pip said cheerfully. She returned to Danny's side, her tail wagging with pride. Doctor had watched the entire interaction. Well done, Pip. You identified a problem and solved it using age-appropriate communication. That is precisely what a companion care specialist should do. The morning continued with Pip helping in small but meaningful ways. She held hands with nervous patients during blood draws. She explained procedures to children in simple language they could understand. She fetched water, adjusted pillows, and provided comfort to anyone who seemed frightened or alone. Danny watched her work with growing respect. Pip had found her calling. She was not just playing at being a medical assistant. She was genuinely good at it. During lunch break, Commander stopped by the infirmary. He had been checking on Pip regularly, making sure the work was not too much for her. But when he saw his daughter confidently explaining proper bandaging technique to a curious patient, his expression softened with pride. "She's thriving," Danny told him quietly. "She's helped 6 patients today, and it's only noon." "I can see that," watched Pip for a moment longer. "She still has nightmares sometimes about her mother, but they're less frequent now. Having purpose has helped her process her grief." "She's helped me too," Danny admitted. "I've always been the kind of person who takes care of others but never accepts help myself. Pip taught me that accepting care isn't weakness. It's just another way of being human." Nodded slowly. "In culture, we have a saying, the strongest pack members are those who know when to lean on others. It seems humans have something similar." "We do, we just forget it sometimes." Over the following weeks, the infirmary's new approach to patient care became standard practice. Doctor created formal protocols for companion care, assigning support partners to patients based on their species and psychological needs. Humans received visitors and physical comfort, had pack members stay with them during recovery, were given communication devices to stay connected to their hives. The results were significant. Recovery times improved across all species. Patient satisfaction increased, and the medical staff reported fewer complications during treatment. Pip became a regular fixture in the infirmary. She attended school in the mornings and worked as a companion care specialist in the afternoons. She had her own small uniform, a junior medical badge, and a growing reputation as someone who could calm even the most anxious patients. One afternoon, 6 months after the silicon organism incident, Danny was updating patient files when an emergency call came through. A cargo bay accident had injured 3 crew members. Danny grabbed his kit and ran, with Pip right behind him. When they arrived, Danny saw immediately that one patient had a deep laceration across his arm. Another had a possible concussion. The third was in shock, sitting against the wall with wide, frightened eyes. Danny went to work on the laceration while Doctor handled the concussion. Pip knelt beside the crew member in shock, a human engineer named Parker who was new to the ship. "Hi, Parker, I'm Pip. You're going to be okay." Pip's voice was calm and steady. "Can you tell me what hurts?" Parker's eyes focused on the small cub. I don't know. I think I'm okay. The cargo container almost hit me. I thought I was going to die." "But you didn't die. You're safe now." Pip gently took Parker's hand. "Your breathing is too fast. We need to slow it down. Can you breathe with me? In for 4 counts, out for 4 counts." Danny worked on the laceration while listening to Pip guide Parker through breathing exercises. By the time he finished sealing the wound, Parker's breathing had normalized, and his color was returning to normal. "You did great, Parker," Pip said encouragingly. "Doctor will check you out to make sure you're really okay, but I think you're going to be fine." Later, back in the infirmary, Doctor pulled Danny aside. "Pip's skills are developing beyond my initial projections. She has a natural talent for emotional support that cannot be taught. She simply understands what people need." "She's special," Danny agreed. "I am considering recommending her for advanced medical training when she is older. With proper education, she could become an exceptional physician." Doctor paused. "I believe you have been a positive influence on her development. Thank you for accepting her help when she first offered it." Danny smiled. "I think we helped each other." That evening, as Pip was getting ready to leave for the day, she stopped by Danny's station. "Danny, can I ask you something?" "Always." "Do you remember when I told you that only I could scritch you? That doctor didn't understand humans." "I remembered." Pip looked embarrassed. "I was wrong about that. Doctor understands more than I thought. She just shows it differently. I'm sorry I said she didn't know how to help you." "You weren't entirely wrong, though," Danny said gently. "Doctor is brilliant at medicine, but you taught her something important about caring for patients as whole people, not just bodies to fix. You both understand different pieces of the puzzle. Together, you make patients feel both medically cared for and emotionally supported." "So I didn't mess everything up by stealing the—" "You definitely shouldn't have stolen the," Danny said with a laugh. "But you identified a real problem and found a solution. You just needed to learn how to do it the right way. And you did learn. You've become an important part of this medical team." Pip's tail wagged. "I'm glad I stole the though, even if it was wrong, because otherwise you would have been alone and I would never have learned that I could be a real helper." Sometimes the wrong choices lead us to the right places, Danny agreed. But let's not make a habit of stealing medical supplies, okay? Deal. Pip picked up her bag and headed for the door, then turned back. Danny, are you doing anything for dinner? Not particularly. Why? Because my father is making his special stew tonight, and he said I could invite a friend. Want to come? Danny felt warmth spread through his chest. I would love to. As they walked to Commander's quarters together, Pip chattered about her day and the new medical techniques she was learning. Danny listened with a smile, realizing how much his life had changed since that moment when he had stepped into the lab doorway to protect those researchers. He had been hurt, he had been forced to accept help, and through that experience he had gained a friend who had taught him that healing was about more than just closing wounds. It was about connection, trust, and allowing yourself to be cared for. Inside Commander's quarters, the captain served his stew with obvious pride. It was delicious, rich and warm and filling. They ate together like a family, Pip telling her father about her day while listened with patient attention. You're doing important work, little one, told his daughter. Your mother would be very proud of you. Pip's eyes grew shiny with tears, but she smiled. I think she would be proud of all of us. We're taking care of each other. That's what she always wanted. After dinner, Pip showed Danny her collection of medical reference books and her detailed notes from doctors' training sessions. She had diagrams, charts, and carefully written procedures for dozens of different situations. You're going to be an amazing doctor someday, Danny told her. I want to be like you and Doctor together, Pip said. I want to know the medicine like she does, but I want to care about people like you do. You already do both, Danny said. You just need time to learn more. When it was time to leave, Pip walked Danny to the door. Thank you for coming to dinner, and thank you for letting me help you when you were hurt. You changed my life. You changed mine too, Pip. You taught me that accepting help isn't giving up. It's trusting people to care about you. Pip hugged Danny's leg, the highest she could reach. Will you come to dinner again next week? Absolutely. As Danny walked back to his quarters, he thought about the strange path that had led him here. A containment breach, an injury, a small cub who decided he needed better care than he was getting. It had all seemed chaotic and overwhelming at the time. But now he had a friend who made him laugh, a colleague in Pip who brought joy to the infirmary, and a reminder that sometimes the best healing comes not from being strong, but from being brave enough to let others help you. In his quarters, Danny noticed something new on his desk. A small plaque had been placed there, clearly made by Pip with help from the ship's fabrication lab. It read, Pip's emergency kit for when humans forget they're not invincible. Danny laughed and carefully placed the plaque on his shelf where he could see it every day. It would remind him of the lesson Pip had taught him. That strength came in many forms, and sometimes the bravest thing you could do was simply let yourself be cared for. And that accepting a scritch from a concerned 6-year-old cub was, in fact, very good medicine indeed. It's really good. There's a part where she has to be really brave even though she's scared. As Pip read, Danny settled back and let her voice wash over him. His back still hurt, and he still had days of recovery ahead. But for the first time since the injury, he did not feel alone in it. He had a tiny, determined companion who had decided he was worth taking care of. And somehow that made all the difference. Because in a galaxy that could be cold and dangerous, people who cared enough to steal medical kits to help someone they barely knew were exactly the kind of people the universe needed more of. Carefully cradling her small form, I understand, little one, but there are proper ways to help. Can I stay and help Danny? Pip asked, her voice muffled against her father's chest. Please, I'll do everything properly. I'll report to you and Doctor. I'll follow all the rules, but please let me help him. Looked at Danny over his daughter's head. Fletcher, do you want a 6-year-old medical assistant? Danny looked at Pip's hopeful face and felt his resistance crumble completely. If it's allowed, sir, I would be honored. Onto a chair beside Danny's bed, she would wait for him to wake up, and then she would explain that everything was going to be okay now. Because Pip was going to take care of him properly. The way humans needed to be cared for. With medicine, yes, but also with gentle touches and comfort, and the kind of attention that Doctor's insect brain could not understand. Pip settled in to wait, her small paws resting protectively on the edge of Danny's bed. She had a job to do now, and she was going to do it right.